Welcome back everyone to another video on the channel. And in today's video, we'll be going over the class of Musketeer in Pirate101. Musketeers are an agility based class. They're a ranged class, one of the only two in the game. Musketeers have an arsenal of trick shots, bombs, and barricades that they can use at their disposal to keep enemies at bay and to keep themselves safe. In today's video, we'll be going over the basic stuff about Musketeers, such as their powers, their talents, what you should train from other classes, the choices you should make when making your character, and the recommended setups and gears that I recommend to you. With that out of the way, let's get into today's video. Firstly, we're going to start off with the powers that Musketeers can learn. Like I said, they learn a lot of trick shots, a lot of traps, and even bombs, and they're really good with obstructing the enemy's movement across the battlefield. So the first trick shot that Musketeers learn is called Grape Shot, and it's a small AoE attack in the form of a cone, as you can see by the picture here. K-Shot is an upgraded version of Grape Shot. It has one increased range and it does more damage. Canister Shot follows the same formula, except it only increases the range, not the damage. Musketeers also learn a type of ability that reduces dodge, making enemies easier to hit. And the first one of these is Snapshot. It attacks enemies in a straight line, and it reduces their dodge by 25%. Quickshot has an upgraded range by 1, and has increased damage and increased effect. Uncanny Shot, the last upgrade, has the same effect. 1 increased range, same damage, but increased effect. Musketeers also get a trick shot in the form of an X, and these can be used almost anywhere on the board depending on your weapon range. Storm Round, the first one that you learn, does a small set of damage. Cyclone Round, which is an upgrade, does more damage. Hurricane Round, the final upgrade, does almost double damage of Storm Round. Musketeers also have a trick shot in the form of a plus sign or a T. Incendiary Shot, Bonfire Shot, Inferno Shot. Basically the same effect as these, except it's in a plus or a T radius. Next up, we're getting into the bread and butter of Musketeers, their ability to obstruct the battleboard. You learn Claw Trap very early on. It's infinite range and it does immense damage to an enemy that steps on it. Bear in mind this is a one-time use though. Bear Trap is an upgraded version of Claw Trap. Scatter Spike summons Claw Traps in the form of an X radius. It's also infinite range, but bear in mind that it does half the damage. Raise Barricade, okay, now this one's really unique because this is one of the only abilities in the game that levels up as you level up. When you first learn it, you'll only be able to put up one of these barricades, but eventually that'll increase to 3 and then to the max of 5, and each time the barricades get stronger in health. Now we have Powder Monkey's Palisade. Next up is Powder Monkey's Palisade. Essentially it summons 3 powder kegs down to the battlefield in the form of a row, but when you break them, they deal damage to a surrounding enemy. They're also infinite range. Now we'll be getting into the bombs that Musketeers can learn. Rain of Mortar Shells does damage in a 3x3 area, and it summons bombs in open squares that deal damage when enemies step on them. Hail of Cannonballs does the same thing except this upgraded bombs. Lastly, Tempest of Torpedoes does the same thing as Cannonballs, except they summon super bombs. What this means is, if an enemy steps on the bomb, it has a chance of pushing the enemy back around to an adjacent square. These 3 bombs also use spell power, which means they benefit from Old Scratch's Mojo buff abilities. Musketeers also learn agility buffs, which benefit both Musketeers and Swashbucklers on the team. Wind Spirit increases agility by 50% for 10 rounds. Cloud Spirit increases agility by 75% for 5 rounds. Lastly, Sky Spirit doubles agility for 3 rounds. Musketeers also have the ability to give their team extra epics. In this case, they have Bounding Overwatch, which gives their team a level of Overwatch. They are also able to do the same with Burst Fire. Those were all the powers that Musketeers can learn. Now let's get into the talents that they learn. Musketeers learn Light Armor. Musketeers learn Sniper, which means their range is increased by 1. They learn Resistant 2. They're the only class to learn Accurate 3, which gives 10 accuracy. Shooty Weapons 3, which increases weapon power by a total of 20 as long as you're using a gun. One of the 2 classes to learn Elusive 3, which gives 50% bonus dodge and 2 movement speed when below 50% health. They also learn quick draw, which is the first strike for ranged units. You basically strike before enemies shoot you. Quick draw 2 is the same thing except 3 times a turn. Quick draw 3 is the same thing except it removes hides from enemies, similar to first strike 3. Musketeers also learn double tap 3. Whenever you crit or kill an enemy, you get the chance to do an extra hit to either that same enemy or another enemy. Double tap 2 is the same thing except up to 3 times a turn. Double tap 3 is the same thing, except it's a sneak attack, but what they also don't tell you is that your accuracy stat is swapped with your agility stat. So what this means is that you'll almost always land a hit against a buccaneer or a witch doctor or a privateer, but you're more likely to miss against a musketeer or a swashbuckler. And those are all the talents that musketeers can learn. Now I'm going to recommend why I think you should learn from other trainers, as they'll really help you. I highly recommend that you learn Spooky 2 because, as I said earlier, your bombs use spell power, which means Spooky 2 will increase how much they can do. To learn Spooky 2, you also need to learn Staffy Weapons 2. You should also learn Overwatch. You can learn both levels, one at level 20 and one at level 40. What Overwatch does is it hits enemies when they move within 2 tiles of you. Overwatch 2 lets you do this up to 3 times on 3 different enemies. Next up, you should learn Burst Fire, and it does what it says. Gain a chance to make a bonus range attack if you hit. You have a 35% chance of landing an extra hit if you hit an enemy. Parting Shot is very situational, but essentially what it does is, if an enemy is about to disengage and move away from you, you have a chance to hit them because of that. And Parting Shot 2 allows you to do this up to 3 times a turn. You're able to learn the first levels of Overwatch, Burst Fire, and Parting Shot at level 20. And you're able to learn the second levels of Overwatch and Parting Shot at level 40. I also recommend that you learn Witch Hunter because it allows you to get an extra hit on witch doctors if they target you. It's very situational, but it's very nice, and Witch Hunter also uses spell power. Witch Hunter also requires 2 levels of Staffy Weapons, so make sure you learn that as well. With leftover practice points from learning talents, I also recommend that you learn Gunnery and Ruse, simply because it's nice to have an infinite range attack and a heal. Now, let's get into the starter choices you make when making a new character. These choices determine what kind of companion you get and what kind of stat bonus you get. But for the companion, I highly recommend either Lost, Thunderstorm, or Armada. For the talent, I highly recommend Naturally Spooky, because a lot of your good abilities require spell power, and the higher that is, the stronger those abilities are. Lastly, let's get into the gear and some setups that you would run on a Musketeer. For the hat, you can run Santarana's hat, which drops from Santarana in Cool Ranch. It gives Overwatch, which is very powerful in a setup I'm going to show you soon. You can also run the Corrupted Archer's Vestment, which comes from the Tower of Mumanchu. It gives bombs and a critical strike. For the jacket, you can run Captain Blood's Obsidian Jacket. Blood Flames, they're very powerful. It summons flames in an egg shape, and each flame does at least 1,000 damage to surrounding enemies. You can also run Corrupted Archer's Jacket from the Tower of Mumanchu. It gives a bear trap and bombs. For the boots, you can run Imperial Boots of Mumanchu, which gives Frozen Tide. Essentially what it does is, it makes the entire team unable to move for 1 turn. You can also run boots that give you Walk in Darkness, either from the Bazaar or from the Empire bundle. Like, these are from the Empire bundle, but it doesn't really matter in the end. For the weapon, you can run either Haywire Thunder Rifle, which gives a sniper shot, which is a guaranteed super hit, and Haywire Shot, while also having 5 range. You can also run Darkmoor Death Spitter, which gives you an Overwatch, which is also a crucial piece for an Overwatch 5 build, which I will get into after this. Darkmoor's Death Spitter, keep in mind this comes from the Ashes of Armada pack, so it's not really free to play, it's more pay to win, but it's a very easy drop in my opinion. You can also run Ringo's Revolvers. These give a level of Overwatch for Overwatch 5, but at the cost of a lot of weapon power. You can also run the Orb of Nefarious Death. This is a shooty staffy weapon for a build which I'm going to show you afterwards. They give a level of Double Tap, which can allow you to run Double Tap 5, which is incredibly broken, but I'll save that for the end. For the eye patch, there's not really that many amazing ones for Musketeers in my opinion. An eye patch I like to use is Patch of Taish's Blind Luck. It gives extra accuracy and a hurricane round. For the totem, you can either use Fusilero's Precision Stone, which comes from Captain Hand or Kane. It gives a quick adjust and a true grit. You can also run Dutchman's Onyx Charm or another version that gives Mojo Mastery, or you can run the Jewel of Mumanchu, which comes from the Tower of Mumanchu. It gives bombs and a critical strike. For the amulet, you can run Right Hand Charm, which gives a bomb and Claw Trap. This also comes from the Tower of Mumanchu. You can also use Apollo's Necklace, which gives a Failur's Fortress. This comes from a couple different bosses in Aquila. You can also choose to run Briscani Chain, which comes from Kane or Captain Hand. It's up to you if you want the extra quick adjust and true grit. For the ring, you could run either this Sapphire Stegosaur ring, which gives Sniper Shot and Mojo Mastery, Brain Thief Amulet, which comes from the Tower of Mumanchu. It gives a trap and a critical strike. Southern Cross Gem, which comes from Lopan or Water Guardian and Mushu. It gives a Failur's Fortress. Southern Jin's Ring, which also comes from Lopan or Water Guardian. It gives a Revive, which is the best heal. And for the pet, you basically want Overwatch and Burst Fire. Now that's all the basic gear you can get on the Musketeer, but I'm going to show you optimal ways you can set up your Musketeer for different situations. For the first setup, it's nothing really special. It's more of if you want to spam bombs on enemies all the time. For the hat, it's going to be Corrupted Archer's Vestment. For the jacket, it's going to be Corrupted Archer's Jacket. The boots are entirely up to your preference. The Haywire Thunder Rifle or Fool's Wand is the best because you can get wireless scratch buffs from your team. The eye patch doesn't really matter. For the totem, you want the Jewel of Mumanchu. For the amulet, you want Right Hand Charm. For the ring, you want Sapphire Stegosaur. Like I said, this is a really basic setup and all the pieces are really easy to get. Now, I'm going to show you the Overwatch 5 setup. For the Overwatch 5 setup, you just need the Santarana hat and the Darkmoor Death Spitter or Ringo's revolvers at the cost of a lot of weapon power. Your pet also has to give you a level of Overwatch, and you also need to have Overwatch 2 trained from the Secret Trainer. Now, why Overwatch 5 is super amazing is because it has extra crit chance every time it activates, it reduces enemy accuracy by 50%, and what it doesn't say is, it knocks back enemies, but essentially that's what Overwatch 5 does. It's a guaranteed knockback on enemies if they try to approach you. It's such a cheesy strategy, but it's a very popular one. For the next setup, it's going to be the Hybrid Shooty Staffy setup. This is a setup you would run if you want to get a lot of combos and a lot of hits in one turn. What makes this setup really shine is that you can obliterate enemies if they ever try to walk into your radius to activate Overwatch. To use this setup, you just basically need a Shooty Staffy weapon. In this case, Orb of Nefarious Death, that's like the best weapon for Shooty Staffy. It gives a rank of double tap, which brings you up to double tap 4. However, your pet is very important for this because your pet needs to give you specific talents to make this work. Your pet is going to have to give you a mix of Mojo Echo, Mojo Rising, double tap, and Burst Fire. We can also mix and match it with other Witch Doctor talents, but it's really preference and it's up to you. But with this setup, you can also run double tap 5 because as a Musketeer you learn double tap 3 naturally. The Orb of Nefarious Death gives you a level of double tap, and your pet can also give you a level of double tap, which brings you up to the max of double tap 5. Now why is double tap 5 so amazing, you might ask? Because of this. Double tap 4 gives you extra crit chance every time it activates, and double tap 5 does the same thing, except each time you critical or you land a hit on an enemy and defeat them, you get 25% extra damage each time it activates. This could mean each shot you do from your gun does about 700 damage to the enemy, which is incredible. So the last setup I'm going to show you is the anti-musket setup. Now what anti-musket means is being able to stun enemies with True Grit 3. As it says here, make a bonus sneak attack after an enemy hits, may stun the enemy, and it has a 35% chance to stun the enemy, so if an enemy Musketeer was to hit you and you hit them with True Grit and you stun them, you could punish them so badly they can't come back from it. So the pieces of gear you need to run to make your anti-musket setup work: the Fusilero's Precision Stone, the Briscani Chain, and the hat. I don't have it, but essentially it gives the same thing as the amulet. All 3 pieces drop from the Kane fight, but you could also run True Grit on the pet with Burst Fire. I don't have a pet with Burst Fire and True Grit yet, but this is an example of showing that a pet can give True Grit. This is a super fun setup to use and you can counter any Musketeer with it. But yeah, I think that'll be all for this video. Musketeers are a super fun class to play, they're one of my top favorites. The different setups you could run on them and have fun with them just to punish other enemies or to like pull off these insane combos or to like cheese enemies. It's like super fun and it's like very preference. But yeah, I hope this video helps you guys and I hope that I was able to explain any misconceptions you may have with Musketeers. And I also want to say a huge thank you to all of you for supporting my previous videos and the channel, especially the Rochambeau spell videos. Like, I was not expecting those videos to do so much and to be crazy. It still shocks me that I had that amount of support and that I was able to do so much with those videos. But it's all thanks to you guys, so a huge thank you to each and every single one of you. But I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope it was helpful and I hope it cleared anything up. So that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.